Imagine being captured as a slave and rising to become one of the most powerful women in history. This is the story of Hürrem Sultan, also known as Roxelana, the woman who redefined power and influence in the Ottoman Empire. She was not born into royalty, and many would have never thought that she was destined for power. Yet, Roxelana broke every rule and shattered every tradition in the Ottoman Empire. In this video, we're going to figure out how did she do it. So let's dive into the story, the incredible story of Roxelana, the joyful one. Born around 1504, what is now Ukraine, Roxelana's early life was marked by hardship. She was born into a Christian family and was most likely abducted during a raid by the Crimean Tatars. She was then brought to the Ottoman Empire, where she entered a life of servitude. This happened a lot during the 16th century. And also, one of the most incredible parts of this whole story is that we don't even know for sure where she was born. We know it was somewhere around the area of what's now Ukraine, but we don't actually have like complete evidence and records of where she was born, which is just incredible as she later became queen. Some were sold into slavery and some found themselves in the Imperial Harem. This was no easy life. In the Imperial Harem, Roxelana was taught a new language, a new religion, and a whole new way of life. She was forced to abandon her past and forget about it, as if it never happened. For most women, the harem was a place of confinement. But for Roxelana, it was a place of opportunity. It was a location where she could maybe improve her life and put herself in a better position. Roxelana's rise to power was unprecedented. She quickly became Sultan Suleiman's favorite, and breaking what Ottoman tradition became his legal wife. This was a complete shift of what was normal. Sultans were expected to marry noble women. It wasn't normal for them to marry concubines. They were supposed to only have children with them, and maximum one, but that didn't happen this time. By becoming the first concubine turned into wife, she completely changed the playground, completely changed the way that the Ottoman Empire looked at women. She was also one of the first that actually used her influence. She wasn't just looking pretty and that's about it. No, she actually had an influence in the politics, in the laws, in just the day-to-day things, and giving the Sultan advice. She was the woman standing by the Sultan's side, helping him with the difficult day-to-day decisions that he had to make for his large empire. The Ottoman Empire was expanding their influence and power, but while doing that, they were being watched by the European monarchs. Just like mentioned earlier, Roxelana was not content with just being a pretty wife standing by the side of the husband and that's it. No, she was writing diplomatic letters. She was working on public projects. But with great power comes great responsibility. And Roxelana had to find out the hard way. Roxelana's rise created tension, especially with Mahidevran, the mother of the Sultan's first son, Mustafa. One story tells of a physical altercation between Roxelana and Mahidevran, where Mahidevran allegedly attacked Roxelana and scratched her face. Roxelana used this incident to her advantage. She demanded that she was left alone and that the Sultan was not allowed to enter her room until he intervened and he did something about the situation. And so he did. He got rid of Mahidevran, while Roxelana was standing by his side. Roxelana's position was further solidified, especially when she bore the Sultan 5 children. And we already mentioned this before, but the tradition was that the concubine was only allowed to bear the Sultan 1 kid. And that was crazy. But this is even crazier. So the Sultan and Roxelana, they eventually started a monogamous relationship, which was crazy. That never happened. The Sultans were never monogamous, but I don't know how. She must have been very convincing. She must have been very, I don't know, like, I'd love to have like a dinner conversation with her just to find out, like, she must have some type of charm, some type of like way to influence men, or at least the most powerful person on earth, to be able to convince him to become monogamous, especially as a concubine. It was unheard of. But because she was able to turn the Sultan monogamous, like eventually all these rumors started spreading that she was manipulative, that she had spells on him, she was working spells on him, she was a witch. And one of the worst terms that was used on her, and probably the worst term that could be used on a woman in the 16th century, is that she was ambitious. Ambitious. The worst term that could be used on you if you were a woman in the 16th century. Roxelana didn't just disrupt the court with her influence, she also left a mark through her humanitarian work. Traditionally, only the Sultan was allowed to embark on grand building projects in major cities, especially in Istanbul. However, as we know, Roxelana didn't listen to the norm. She embarked on large-scale construction projects, including the Haveki Sultan complex in Istanbul. This project included a mosque, a college, a hospital, and a soup kitchen that provided food for the poor and the sick. Through these works, she wielded powers in ways that were previously unavailable for women, especially concubines. Roxelana's influence wasn't limited to the Ottoman's court. She actively participated in foreign relationships, particularly with Poland, where she was believed to have been born. There are surviving letters between Roxelana and the King of Poland, including her role in promoting friendly relationships between the two states. Some believe that her efforts helped with the return of Polish captives by the Ottoman Empire, something that was hugely celebrated, and folk songs were made about it in Poland. Even though there's no specific evidence of her working on treaties, the fact that ambassadors were crediting her and showing their appreciation for her help shows that she was actually really playing a role in writing these treaties and the negotiation of it. This was unprecedented for a woman of her time, further marking her as just an exceptional woman in history, and sadly also kind of like a forgotten figure in history. I mean, I've never heard about the story before 2 weeks ago. Roxelana Sultan passed away in 1558, the same year that Elizabeth I ascended the throne. And like Elizabeth, she marked her place in history. She made mistakes, she did good things, but she also paved the way for a whole new generation of women. Her legacy endures in the physical monument she left behind and the lasting impact she had on the role of women in the empire. As the Venetian ambassador remarked, "There has not been in the Ottoman house a lady that has had more authority than Roxelana, from a captured slave to becoming one of the most powerful women on the planet." This story reminds us that power can come from everywhere. Remarkable stories can come from everywhere. Remarkable people can come from locations where you don't expect it. So use this story as motivation. Maybe you watching right now, you're not in a location where you want to be. But I can't imagine you have a worse life than being a slave. And if Roxelana can do it, then who knows, maybe you can also leave a lasting impact on the world. I hope you enjoyed this video. Make sure to subscribe, and I hope to see you in the next one. Thank you.